Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us today for Build Content Like a Pro. This topic has been a very exciting topic. A lot of people have shown interest, and thank you guys for joining today. And we have a few really cool statistics and facts that are coming, and we are going to kick off this entire program in just a moment. Our presenters for today's session are myself, Natia Seegers. I'm Senior Manager for Marketing here at Mindflash. And we also have Lauren Lovelace, who is Lovelace, who's the Director of Accounts. Before we get started, though, I wanted to give you a few housekeeping items that will help make this experience a little more enjoyable. The first being if your panel is obstructing your view at any time, just look at that orange button at the top of your screen. It's the top left section of the control panel. You can push that arrow and it will make it magically disappear. Also, we will accept questions in the chat, and we will actually cover those questions toward the end of the broadcast. And the last item to cover is that you are certainly muted, and once again, we'll be accepting questions and comments through chat. And we will also have a few exciting aspects to the program to keep you guys engaged, and that will be live polls. We have some really cool questions that we're going to ask, and I think some of these questions are questions that you might also want to know the answers for as well. So, what we're going to cover today is creating content in general. I think this is probably a refresher for most of you, but in case you are brand new to the experience, don't worry, we're going to cover all the basics. But we're also going to talk about a framework for building content so that you get the results that you're looking for. If you have goals or metrics that you want to associate with your content, we have some ideas to maybe help you accomplish that. And also, I have a little sneak preview of a tool that you'll actually get if you are participating today. I'm going to send that in my follow up email to all of you. It's going to be, I think, a useful tool for you. We're also going to cover a couple of best practices for building content and also tools to help you manage everything that you create. So, what is content anyway? Content is material or information that is used to communicate a message. I mean, this could actually be any kind of tool, any kind of content. It could be a story, a video, a product guide, a help article that you're using to help you communicate how to do something for your customers. It could be a PowerPoint slide or just generally anything that could help your audience get the message. And I'm not sure if you saw that stat, but on average, trainers are reporting that it takes them between 40 to 80 hours to create a single course. So it's not a surprise to me that we have so many people who have signed up to learn how to do it and how to do it a little faster. And I think I'm really excited to just share some of my personal experience as I, as a marketer, have to create content, including courses and trainings or webinars like this one, and make sure that I have engaging content and also enough content to keep people excited, engaged, and also to meet the needs of our audiences. So, what makes good content? This is the most important question I think we're going to cover today. But the first thing is that it has to serve a purpose. I always say start with the end in mind. So that means we have to start out with a set of goals and objectives that have to be met through the courses or the content. And in this case, we are specifically talking about training content, as many of you are instructional designers, trainers, etc. So the second thing is that the message has to be clear. So, what the learner should take away is it has to be very, very easy for them to understand and get it. And that also might be something that you, as a trainer, rate yourself on. Did they understand the message? The third one is it's digestible. And basically, that means it has to be really easy to consume. We are reading so much content every day. I mean, I will wake up every morning to my cell phone. I look at so much content between the time I wake up from, all the way to the time I get to work. It's pretty much an endless stream of content today. So make sure that you are writing things that are really easy for people to process. And the last one is to build your content for the context. Think about where your learners are going to access that content. Are they viewing it from a computer? Or are they going to be on a mobile device? Is this content created for an in person training or for a webinar? And try to think about ways to make sure that you are building for that particular context. And I'm pretty sure if you do all of these things well, it's going to be pretty darn awesome. So now here's a fun one. How do you actually build that content? Well, for starters, back to my original point of starting with the end in mind, build a content plan. Then also use what you already have. Again, this one might be my favorite one because this is a way that you can take something that already exists and breathe new life into it and have it actually translate to one to two or even five extra pieces of content, whether it's a video or a PowerPoint slide or a help article. It's really endless what you can do if you use your imagination and if you keep track of the things that you already have. So the third one here is to create an outline for each piece. And again, this is where you think about the context, you think about the objectives, the goals. And I really want to encourage everyone, which we'll talk about this a little bit more on the next slide. But when you're building this and you're walking through all of these steps, really, really, really take a moment and give yourself a time limit. Because, it's true. We could create Mona Lisas and masterpieces out here, but the truth is, you have a job. It has to be, you have to produce content and you have to do it where it actually gets the job done. And so I think the Mona Lisa will come at the point after you've done the first steps. So just time yourself in your planning process so that you're able to be more effective and more efficient, and then go back over it and then refine. And this is the part that I was just talking about, which is it's really got to be rough. So really hold yourself accountable for keeping it rough. And this is something that I've worked with because I'm just a little bit of a perfectionist personally, and sometimes I get really caught up in the details of making things perfect, maybe a little before it's time. So I think really, really challenge yourself to make it rough, make it quick, sketch out an outline, and make sure that you're meeting those objectives that you built in your original plan. All right, so here's where I wanted to share a couple of planning tools that I personally use. And you are actually seeing my content plan, and hopefully no judgment is happening right now, but we're looking at building out a whole bunch of stuff for all of our customers and prospects so that we're actually delivering things that are necessary. And this is where I'm going to talk a little bit more about engaging subject matter experts and people in your arena that can help you out with developing your content. But Kanbanshi is my tool of choice. And the reason is that it's super easy, it's intuitive. I can invite other people to join me on there, and people can upload, whatever they've created. And it's a pretty neat thing. And they can also track how far along they've gotten. And there are other ones that are similar to Trello, but my reason for using Kanbanshi is that, well, it plugs back into Google Docs, so I can create reports off of it, and that makes my life easier because, I mean, who wants to waste time doing the administrative part of this experience? So I actually literally get excited every day when I come here and see that, there's progress being made when some of my writers are coming in. Another tool, this is the one that I will certainly share with you at the end of this broadcast, and this is a content planning template. And again, I've created a Google Doc. I'll send it to you as an Excel. You can put it back in Google, whatever you would like, whatever makes it easy for you. But the cool thing about this is that it really just helps guide you around a little bit of structure so that you can get the job done, right? And especially when you're starting to incorporate other people, other writers, other content developers, or instructional designers, or even like subject matter experts, you can really, really keep track of everything right here. So I know everyone who's sitting here is seriously thinking, okay, that's all great. I already know some of this stuff. Hopefully, you're not thinking that. Hopefully, I've done an okay job of at least, covering some of the value points. But the main question that you might still have is, how do you actually create it fast? Again, going back to that stat, 40 to 80 hours. And I'm really curious if that's how much time you all are spending personally. But what I'd like to cover next is a couple of tips around how you can do it a little bit faster. So, the one that you probably already heard and already understand is repurpose what you already have. And I mean, the one thing that you should do is certainly take an inventory of everything you have. If you're new to the organization, find out what exists. And that may be a process of time if you're in an organization where things are everywhere. You have multiple systems and multiple stakeholders, but do your best to pull together as much of the information that already existed, whether it's in video form, whether it's a help guide, whatever it is. Find what you have and figure out how you can use it to accomplish your content goals. The other thing is Google. I will say this, and I'm sure everyone here knows this, but Google is your friend. You literally can like find anything you're looking for, and I think it's a really good way, especially depending on your use case for creating content. Let's say that you need to create content for your customers or your prospects. In a similar way to like how I sort of thought about building a webinar around building content. Well, I started with understanding what are questions that keep coming to us from the customers. How do I create the content? Do you have content that I can already use? Where can I get content? And then I started researching on Google again, and it's a recurring theme. We all have such a big job, and it's changing every day. There are now people who are not trainers as their full time job. They may be sales managers, they may be marketers, but they have a job of training and creating content for those training because that is a part of the evolving world of business that we're in. So again, find some relevant YouTube videos just to make it a little bit splashy, and that'll be fun because you'll be able to interject some videos and rich media to just keep it interesting. Also, you can get other content writers. And this is my second favorite, or actually, it might be my first, I don't know. But when you can, I call it duplicate yourself, or increase increase the amount of output with less effort. And this has been a process that I've worked on just to figure out, hey, I need a lot of things. How can I get other people to help me? So, you can start by hiring writers or instructional designers. And there are places where you can find exactly what you're looking for without spending a whole lot of money and or spending a lot of time. And places like Upwork or Mosaic, there's a whole bunch of different resources online that can help make this task a little simpler. Also, get your coworkers involved. Do you have a product developer or product manager who knows the product inside and out? And you have a job of explaining to your customers how to do something. Get them to help you write some of that content. Just don't take this and think of yourself as the only person who's capable of delivering what you need for your course materials. Then also enlist your SMEs. This one is actually really, really paramount. This is where you might find yourself in a situation where you won't necessarily have to spend as much money and or as much time. And there's a really cool statistic around this one. And I have to say, going back to the 40 to 80 hours of time spent to build an hour worth of course material, I think the one thing that I've learned in this whole process is that you can shave off time if you employ the right tactics. And the same study that reported that 40 to 80 hours worth of time spent building content also reported that you could save up to 15% of the time by enlisting the support of a subject matter expert. Now, I've seen this myself when I build content using a subject matter expert. I mean, right now, how I do it is I segment out all of my topics and I give the person who has the most experience that particular topic. What I've noticed is if they don't have to research in depth to be able to produce the content, I can get them to turn things around so much faster. And that's good for everyone. So I wanted to share with you one of our customer success stories. And this one is really exciting to me because um, I kind of feel like they are representative of a best in class scenario in terms of engaging subject matter experts to get the job done, to be able to support their customer course and learning objectives. Orion Advisor Services provides technology solutions and accounting services to make doing business a little easier for advisory firms. And they began with a small training operation, but quickly realized they needed to produce more training for their clients to help them be successful. So they came up with a model where they engage internal subject matter experts from different teams, and the results were so good that they eventually got approval from their senior executives to actually get a percentage of headcount or dedicated time from each SME. And they actually have them on a specific day working together as a team to deliver on all of their course and content requirements. So the results were that they were able to produce content faster and also create content that was extremely relevant and met the needs of the particular audience. So now let's just talk about making content actionable. In order to do this particular part of the content and course development job, you have to start with purposeful design. And I'm not just saying making it pretty, but I'm talking about designing the course, designing the content and the experience to help get those needs met. So here are a couple of tips for if you're training online and in particular on desktops. Consider all of the accepted file types that could be used. And make sure that whatever tool you're using for online or e-learning, online training, e-learning, whatever you prefer to term it, that they accept the file types that you're creating content in. I think one thing that's pretty exciting about what we do here at Mindflash is that we actually have the ability to take content in whatever format you have it in, and in all common content development tools or platforms like, PDFs all the way to PowerPoints. I mean, if you're usually creating content or presentations or things like that, um, you want to make sure that you can use the things that you already have. As opposed to having to start brand new or having to learn a brand new tool in order to make your content. Again, that might add a little extra time to the time it takes for you to actually build your course. So make sure you include graphics or videos or photos. And again, just keep your context in mind and just remember that we're all impatient. I like to call it a microwave society. We don't want to wait for anything now. So, make sure you keep it really interesting, keep it fresh, and make sure it's visually stimulating as much as possible. And you can do this by using familiar tools. I think this is another thing. Just like don't try to start, recreate the wheel. Start with what you already have. And again, if you're using a learning management system or anything like that, make sure that they can accept the tools that you're used to or the output from tools that you're used to using. And the last thing about like making things pretty uh, actionable and designing things nicely so that it is engaging and it is uh, easy on the eyes is to use templates. So um, now let's just switch over to talking a little bit about mobile training. And I have a couple of really cool tips. I mean, of course, some of the things that you saw on the online training platform can also be applied to mobile training, but there are a couple of things that you also want to really consider. And again, I wanted to reiterate the context. Think about your context at all times, and also keep in mind that when people are on the go, they are highly distracted. They have so many things that they can focus on other than your training. So keep it short, keep it sweet, and use graphics more than you use words. You're looking at a really small screen if you're on mobile. So I think it's really important to make sure that whatever message you're communicating it in a way that's easy for the learner to consume. And that's also optimizing rich media. So using videos or things that move around on the screen, and concentrate on a single learning objective. And the last one is to choose a responsive design authoring tool or course authoring tool. Again, I think this is one where you can think about, I can go back to some of the same points that we just covered, which are use tools that you are comfortable using. If PowerPoint is your best friend, use PowerPoint. And again, make sure that your content or learning management system can actually take that. One of the things that we do at Mindflash is we actually allow the PowerPoint, whatever PowerPoint content is available or design elements are there, it actually converts exactly the same way, once you load it in. And that is a huge benefit. So you don't have to spend a whole lot of time reworking or rearranging something that you've already done once. So now I wanted to take a moment to engage you guys with a few polls. And we're going to get started, and I'm going to give you guys all 20 seconds to go ahead and participate. So it looks like creating engaging content is the winner here. But right under it is measuring training effectiveness, and I think that's really actually um, not surprising to us because those are two things that definitely seem to be recurring themes. And I think that is the power of utilizing a learning management system because the tracking effectiveness is the hardest part, and it's the job that's not as easily done when you just send out a PowerPoint template or something like that. All right, so we're going to go ahead and hide those results, and I'm going to have you participate in the second poll. So, how critical is training to your business? All right, looks like all the answers are in. And it looks like it's very critical. I don't think that there's any other reason that you would be on this call, but it's great to just know and also to see what is important to your peers. All right, we have yet another. So, do you have content today that could be used to create courses? All right, we're going to close those and share those results. It looks like a good portion of you already have content, and I guess that explains why you are really interested in making it a little bit more engaging and also being able to track and measure the effectiveness of that engaging content. And it also supports, I don't know if you recall or if you were there when I showed the stats at the very beginning, but that 62% of trainers feel like they might not be meeting the needs of their learners. And I think that that is also a good reason to think about how you can track the effectiveness. And we're going to, give you a couple of pointers and things to cover to help you maybe in some of those areas. So we have one last poll before we continue on. And the question for the group is, are you using a learning management system? All right, we're going to close that poll. And here are the results. It looks like a good portion of you are currently using a learning management system. And then there's another, almost, it's about, 60-40 in terms of people who do versus don't. All right, so moving right along. So now you have beautiful content. So what do you do next? Now that you've figured out all of the best practices and how you can create the content, how you can deliver it fast and deploy it through mobile and online learning, I have a couple of tools that I'd love to talk to you about to help you build and deploy your content. And this is not an exhaustive list by any means, but I do have some other resources that I'd be happy to point you to where I've tested out a couple of tools that I thought were pretty neat. And I recently wrote a post on 8 training tools that will make your training pop. So I'll share those with you as well. But let's just say that you need some tools to create video. Again, not to beat a dead horse here, but YouTube is a pretty good resource. I mean, you don't even have to create the content yourself as long as you're citing where your content came from. If you find something that could supplement your training experience on YouTube, then you should use it. And again, make sure that you have a learning management system if you are using a learning management system that allows you to pull that kind of content in. On the other hand, Animatron Wave, this one was a really cool one that I tested out over a couple of weekends ago. And what I loved about it was it actually gave you different sizes it automatically would convert your sizes based on the context. So if you needed it to be for mobile, or if you want to share your training course because you are training people outside of your business or people who are customers or prospects or whatever, and you want to reach them like on social, this is a really cool one. Animaker is also really cool because it's super easy to just really quickly pick a template and create something really neat. You can put individual people in or whatever you would like to help make the training experience a little bit more fun. We also have some course authoring tools, which some of you, you're instructional designers, you know these probably, Adobe Captivate and Articulate Scorm. Presentation tools, PowerPoint, again, PowerPoint, Keynote. And if you're using those and you don't want to stick with the typical template designs, Presenter Media and Slide Carnival are really cool resources that you could turn to. And I fell in love with presenter media. They had so many things, and especially animated templates, which I thought were really neat. And some of them are specific on like a certain topic, and you could just drop your actual content in and use their templates. It was really neat. And then, of course, a learning management system. So, a learning management system um, is something that we all are generally familiar with, I'm guessing. But one thing that I wanted to share with you is thinking about having a learning management system that is made with course creation and ease of use in mind. And for that portion, and we'll be wrapping in just about 15 minutes or 10 minutes, and we'll have questions and answers. We're going to have Lauren to.
Hi guys, I'm taking over my screen here. Just one moment. All right. So thanks everyone for joining us today. So Natia's talked to you a lot about creating content, repurposing content, but now that you have your training, what do? You load it into a learning management system like Mindflash. And one of the biggest challenges that we find people have is learning how to use a learning management system or how to create their on-demand courses. And here at Mindflash, we have made that very, very easy and simple for you to do. So you guys are looking at my screen right now. I'm on the Mindflash course creation dashboard. And you will notice to create a course, all we're going to be doing is working through the tabs at the very top, manage, settings, content, and we're going to fill in the bottom. So on this screen here, we're putting in our course or module title. We can pop in a description of our module. We then save. You have a tab called settings where you can set up things like passing scores. And then we've got the fun part and the reason that we're all here today, which is content. So over the next few minutes from the content upload page, we're going to talk a little bit about how to refine, enhance, and launch your training programs. So we're going to start by uploading some of that rich, beautiful content that we've gathered. And whether we've created it specifically for this on-demand course or we are repurposing other content, we're going to start by uploading those files. So you'll choose an upload option here. And like Natia said, we support all common file types. So if you're repurposing your PowerPoint, maybe you're repurposing a blog post or a PDF, a Word document someone shared with you, you'll simply upload that file into Mindflash. Natia also mentioned one of the really beautiful things that Mindflash does is it beautifully preserves your content the way in which it was built. So if you've built something like a PowerPoint that has animated builds, narrative incorporated into it, when you upload it to Mindflash, all of that rich, wonderful media that you have created is maintained and supported within our system. One of the other challenges that people have, especially when repurposing content, is now combining many different file types, right? So that's another great thing about Mindflash. I've just uploaded a PowerPoint presentation, and you'll see that presentation as it uploads and converts to Mindflash. Each slide will start to populate on the left-hand side of my screen, very similar to look and feel of tools like PowerPoint. But let's say after the second slide in my PowerPoint, I've got a great PDF that one of my colleagues has shared, or I found an awesome blog post that I'm wanting to copy and incorporate into my course. All you have to do is click on the button Insert in the top left-hand corner. Again, you'll just choose from files. So you'll grab a file from your desktop and you can drop now that piece of content smack dab in the middle of your PowerPoint presentation. So really refining the flow of your training material. We also talk a lot about making things interactive and engaging, and we've got some really great ways to do that here at Mindflash. It's a question we get all the time. How do I keep people interested in my training? How do I keep them engaged? So one of the ways that you can do that is adding narrative. So if you've got narrative in your content already, fantastic. But you'll see here when I click on a slide in the left-hand bar, I have a preview of the slide on my screen, and in the top bar, I can actually add audio right here within Mindflash. Or if you're lucky and you've got somebody who's produced some professional audio for you already, you can just upload and overlay that audio directly over your slides. Another neat thing you can do is create quizzes. So you'll choose where you want to do something like a quiz. We encourage you to do as many quizzes throughout your courses as you want or can, just again, to keep people interacting. Click on Insert, select quiz, and you'll follow the prompts to create a quiz. I encourage everybody to get on a trial and play with these different quiz question types. We've got some really fun interactive image-based questions, as well as your more standard true, false, multiple choice, and multiple correct. The last thing you'll want to do is bring in that video. So whether you have your own videos that you've produced, or whether you're looking to leverage videos that you've found on YouTube. As Natia mentioned, it's a fantastic resource. So if you're doing Mindflash training, you want to show folks how to take a little Mindflash training course, you're more than welcome to take any of our videos. Lots of software applications do have training and videos on YouTube. So you just grab a share link from a YouTube video and you can post that link directly into your course, and that will bring in your video. So really easy, again, to add and mix all those different types of content and material. The last thing we're going to look at is the ways in which you are refining. So you've created this beautiful course, you've uploaded all of your content, you've added audio, you've added video, you've put in quizzes, you've done surveys, but gosh, you know what? I don't really like the layout. So on the left-hand side, you'll see each slide. Just as you could in PowerPoint, drag and drop to reposition any of your slides. You can drag and drop to reposition your slides here. If there's a slide you don't like, it's not relevant to your training, no problem. In the top right-hand corner, you can actually hide that slide from your training. So this gives you really, really flexible interface and way to upload and repurpose all those different types of files that you've gathered, created, and enlisted employees and colleague help on, bringing in your videos, adding your quizzes. Once you're done, you'll click on Done, and you now have a live course that's ready to launch for your on-demand training program. Back to you, Nitya.
Thanks. Okay, so now we have a good number of questions, and I want to try to cover as many and also keep us within the hour. But since we were just covering a couple of things related to Mindflash, I will have we only had a few questions specifically related to that. Uh, so one of them was around how long should a module be?
That's a
Lauren?
great question. And this is something that we get asked on a regular basis. Through our experience, our research with our own customers and industry, we find that the most successful trainings are about 15 to 20 minutes. If you need to make courses that are longer, you can certainly do that by combining multiple modules.
Yeah, and I also saw a couple of questions around like how long does it actually take to build what was the stat specifically covering for 40 to 80. So it was the output was 1 full hour of course material for that question. Um, I also had another question specific, which several of you asked, and I thought I covered it, but sorry if I hadn't. And that is, what is an SME? That is a subject matter expert. So people who are experts in a specific subject. Um, and this one is, what is the best way to keep people engaged in training? Lauren?
Yeah, so the best way to keep people engaged in training is use means of interacting with them. So, putting quizzes throughout your courses, asking them questions. You don't have to grade people, but using quizzes as a way of keeping people on their toes, engaging with your information, is a great way to communicate with them. Also, people love media. Most of us are very visual. So leverage those YouTube videos. Add in animated builds to your PowerPoints, even if they're very simple. Use those audio narrations. Those are the best things that you can do to keep people engaged and interacting with your programs.
Yeah, but also let's think about if you are doing trainings for an in-person context or a live context, and hopefully I will see this in the survey, but hopefully we did a pretty good job of keeping our webinar participants engaged. And some of the ways that you can do it are just similar as I did. One of the things that I always love is being able to answer questions and give my opinions. So the polls are really enriching and exciting, keep people, engaged. Another thing is to give, bite-sized statistical information or references. The did you know facts is something. I mean, we look at those even on social media. It's something that people engage with. So, in an in-person context, you could also give out prizes. You can also do that online as well. And you can set up, triggers to send prizes or rewards based on answers or completion, and or have people, asking questions is another way to engage people. So we also had a question around how good, or hold on, let me just ask the question exactly as it was written here. Just give me a minute. And the question was, what is your recommendation for using Mindflash versus course authoring tools? Or do you use Mindflash along with a course authoring tool?
That's a great question. So, Mindflash is a way to enhance, arrange, and deploy your on demand training programs. So, this is how you are going to launch your programs. You're going to be given stats and analytics to track those programs, see how well they're performing, trainee usage. We ourselves are not a content authoring tool. You're not typing out your slides in Mindflash. The beautiful thing about that is you're uploading again what we've talked about today, which is uploading content you already have, repurposing your existing training material, dropping it into Mindflash, just like I demoed, and enhancing it, rearranging your slides, bringing in those different types of media like your video, adding in audio, quizzes. So a lot of times people will need to be using something even as simple as Word documents or PowerPoint to write your content, upload it to Mindflash.
Okay, and another question that also is coming in is around the one of the polling questions is, how can you track and measure the effectiveness? Like, how do you know if your training program is performing and or if
Mhm.
the content is resonating?
Yeah, Mindflash has fantastic reports, and I can't speak to every solution out there, but with Mindflash, we show you who is taking your training, how well are they performing. You can compare groups of trainees. So if you're training, your external sales team along with your partners, and you want to compare and contrast those different groups of trainees and their output. The other thing that we provide you is very, very detailed analytics around your programs. For example, if there is a portion of your course people seem to be struggling with, we have ways of identifying that. And we can send you a prompt saying, hey, here is part of your course that people appear to be struggling with. And we can kind of talk through what those struggles might be. With quizzing, we do something very similar, identifying quiz questions that people typically respond to incorrectly, right? If you have a high volume of incorrect responses on specific questions, we'll help you to analyze why that is. So we have built in just a ton of information into our platform to make sure that your training programs are successful.
And another point around that is, again, at the very beginning, we talked about planning your programs. So I want to make sure that you're thinking about those goals and the outcomes that you are looking for. And that's a really easy way to consider a success metric. You can say, I want to help increase the sale of a new product. Like maybe last year your sales reps were struggling and they really didn't sell the new products right away. So you decided to do a training on that. Maybe you could just compare a set of data from last year in terms of the sales of a new product after its release, and maybe think about like the time to sale, for example. And I think that's going to be an interesting webinar that we'll come up with as a follow up to this one, which is all around like the metrics and tracking and measuring. And I think that would be a topic, again, that has been resonating and a lot of people have had questions on. And the tool that I'm going to send you all after this broadcast also kind of gives you some examples of KPIs that you could also consider tracking. And again, that's completely free. So don't worry, it's just something that you can use when you're planning. And we have time for, I think, one more question. And I think that one is around combining modules in a curriculum. Can I combine a module in a curriculum? And wait, just before we answer that one, I think we had a couple of people who also wanted to know specifically what a learning management system is. Like, what is Mindflash or what is a learning management system? So maybe we can cover that really quickly and then go into how you can combine modules.
Sure. So a learning management system is a platform that allows you to deploy your training online. Your trainees log in to that system, and that system then tracks what your trainees are doing. So you're getting back information about what their scores were, how much time did they spend, when did they complete their programs, if they've been required to take courses, what have they finished, what have they not finished. So your learning management system deploys and tracks your training programs.
And just one other thing that it could also do is it could set triggers based on that tracking. So after someone completed something, maybe you could, set a trigger to send them a certificate of completion or to mark them
Mhm.
as like having completed their let's say compliance or regulatory training, and things like that. Just as an aside. And so, what about combining modules, Lauren?
Sure, sure. And I may have touched on this briefly, but yes, you absolutely can. So I mentioned earlier that the most successful modules or courses are about 15 to 20 minutes. And that's really because people have short attention spans. You want to get them through your training programs. You want to make sure that they're successful. Um, but if you have a program that needs to be longer, let's say you have a new partner training that's probably going to run people, 4 to 5 hours. You'll create multiple modules of about 15 to 20 minutes, and you can combine those into a complete curriculum. So the idea is that you provision somebody access to the whole curriculum. As they finish one module, they're then prompted into the next module.
Okay, and last question before we end is, do you work with the people you've hired, writers and instructional designers, to collaborate with you on Comanche? And the answer is absolutely yes. And believe it or not, I actually, I'm drinking my own Kool-Aid. I created a course for them and some materials, just like a trainer should, to help them to understand our audience, the objectives for things. I give them guidelines on how things should be written, words that should be used when referencing certain things and words that shouldn't. I mean, I think I am pretty thorough on helping to get them started, and it I am telling you, it has changed my life because I can manage everyone a lot easier. Before, I was having phone calls with everyone, and I was, doing a little bit more work in the process of refining, like, how can I make my life easier. So yeah, I invite them, I send them a link. As long as they have a Gmail account, in this case, they can go in there and actually in my case, I allow my writers to pick and choose which ones they think they would be best at writing. Again, I do leverage my subject matter experts, or SMEs, and so some of them have very specific content pieces that they own, but others are they have hidden talents or experience that they are able to go in and say, hey, I want this one, and they basically put their name on it, and we work together on that, and it's been so efficient for me to manage them. So with that, I think I just wanted to say thank you all for joining us, and I also wanted to just remind you, some of you wondered what is an LMS, or and had some other questions on how an LMS works, and we have an opportunity for you guys to actually try Mindflash for free. And don't worry if you don't jump on here immediately. You will get these materials at the end. We will send them out by tomorrow. So you will have an opportunity again to actually request a time to learn more, or to actually get started on your own free trial. So, again, thank you very much for joining us on this webinar, and we hope to have you again soon. Thanks. Bye bye.
Thanks, everyone.